And since that has happened, whilst you are quite correct, sir, to say that the motion is the same, an event outside has dramatically changed it. And given that the motion on Saturday is very clear that final approval can't be done until the deal has gone through in legislation, would it not be, as you've always said, to let the House decide on this matter, notwithstanding the fact that the previous motion is clear what actually is going to happen? It would give the country the opportunity to know whether this House approves or disapproves of the Prime Minister's deal.
I'm really grateful to the honourable gentleman for his point of order. My response is as follows. I did not consider, in reaching a judgment on this matter, whether a letter would be sent. The letter was sent on Saturday evening. More widely, however, the question of whether it would be a material consideration for the chair whether a minister of the Crown would obey the law, the honest answer to the honourable gentleman is that that consideration had not entered my mind as pertinent to my reflection on the matter. I note the wider point that the honourable gentleman makes, and I respect the fact that it is a point of view, and I intend no discourtesy to the honourable gentleman when I say that I think I have made the argument for and explained the rationale behind the judgment that I have made. I'm not seeking to rubbish the honourable gentleman. I'm not seeking to rubbish the honourable gentleman. I'm simply making the point that, having reflected on all of the considerations and the interests of the House, I have reached the conclusion I have reached. And it is important that colleagues hear all parts of it. And the honourable gentleman didn't like part of it, as is politely explained in his point of order, but he will also have heard me say what is open to the government to do. And the government can introduce its bill, and the government can propose a programme motion for it, and the government can proceed with the support of the House between now and the end of the month, as collectively Parliament prescribes, and that seems to me to be entirely proper. I will come to other colleagues. Yes, I'll come to other, particularly the illustrious chair of the European Scrutiny Committee. But first of all, a point of order, Mr. Kevin Brennan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As you'll recall, on Saturday afternoon, I was the honourable member who raised the issue that the Leader of the House should have been making an emergency business statement at that time, rather than relying on the device of a point of order to try to change the business today. I described it at the time as low-rent jiggery-pokery. Isn't it time, Mr. Speaker, that the government, instead of playing games with the business of this House, actually subscribe to the usual practices, inform the opposition of their intentions, and indeed inform the Speaker of this House of their intentions in advance, so that we can all get on and with the important business we have to conduct?
Well, I'm grateful to the honourable gentleman. Look, let's focus on the arguments and the issues. As somebody, a very long-serving member of this House, once said, sadly no longer with us, it's not about policies, it's about policies, it's not about personalities. It's not about personalities, it's about policies. And so I don't want to get into the personalities of it. I know that the Leader of the House disapproves of jiggery-pokery, because I've heard him say so in the past. If memory serves me correctly, on March the 26th, 2015, in the Chamber, he made that very point, that he deprecated the use of jiggery-pokery. I don't want to get into that. I suppose what I want to say is this, that our precedents for changes in business being announced on points of order, it's not the norm, but there are precedents, and I don't want to ascribe any improper motive to the Leader of the House, whose personal courtesy to me over the years has been and remains unfailing. I hope I have reciprocated it. He made the judgment he made. There was very little notice that he was going to say what he said, but that was really perhaps a product of the circumstances. The honourable gentleman might think the circumstance could have been anticipated and some advance notice would have been helpful, but we were where we were, and I don't complain about having to respond to points of order.